All right, welcome. It's time for a little bit of a recap. If you don't know, Tyler, you probably do know. It was crazy week 3. I didn't go on last night, kind of tired. I was, the whole thing with tags and all that. I just didn't want to go live. I have other life things to do that are more, felt better to do those things than come on here. But I'm here alone, so it'll be a shorter show. Quick recap of any of the interesting stuff that happened. If you have questions, I know the show is not on Twitter because Twitter has decided that their live stream platform is, going to not take live questions. So that means it's useless to me. There's nobody watches those back. Nobody asks questions. If you can't ask questions on there, nobody ever watches it back on Twitter. There's just no reason for me to post it there. So, until they fix that or change it, I won't be there. So you'll have to come to YouTube. The only way you'll ever see these is on YouTube. So that's just how it's going to be going forward. Anyway, there's one question in the chat from Tanantha. Thoughts on Josh Gordon signing with the Chiefs? Yeah, that happened like 10 seconds ago. I don't know. I like it, right? I mean, if there's anywhere he could go and be relevant, it's the Chiefs, right? I mean, they don't have a real wide receiver 2 behind Tyreek Hill. They have Kelsey and they have Hill, and that's it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, you could probably add him, but don't trade for him. Don't trade for him. Just let's see what he does. I'll believe it with Josh Gordon when I see it. But yeah, it's crazy that happened. Right as we're on the show. Okay, so I guess I'll skip the Thursday night game. I've kind of already talked about that. So we'll just we'll look at the other games and see if there's anything interesting to talk about. Okay, so we're going to start with Washington versus the Bills. So the Bills won. No. Well, believe it when I say it. The Bills won 43-21. Not too much in this game, really. I mean, on the Bills side, Josh Allen quieted the critics. He had a good game. I do have some notes about some dynasty changes that I've taken for this, but this one was one of the quieter ones. The most interesting thing for me from the Bills was, the backfield split. I mean, Zach Moss out-carried Devin Singletary. I just don't think you're getting anything useful out of either of these guys, unfortunately. Moss out-snapped him. The one thing I think, Gabriel Davis, 29% of snaps, 1 target, caught it for 23 yards. That's not going to cut it. So he's someone, he's just not it, unfortunately. Dawson Knox played the second most snaps of any weapon other than Emmanuel Sanders, who led. Knox played more snaps than Stephon Diggs. I think it's more likely that you get something out of Knox than you get something out of Davis, especially since Knox is tight end. You just forget about Gabriel Davis. Unfortunately, I think it's not going to. That's really it for Buffalo. They had a good game. As for Washington, Gibson, 12 for 31 is not great. But he did catch the one long pass for 73 yards. Other than that, nobody really did much of anything. I am starting to realize that this offense misses Curtis Samuel big time. De'Ami Brown just isn't cutting it as their second receiver. Even though he's playing a lot of snaps, he's not good enough right now. He needs to they need Curtis Samuel back. That's it pretty much. Heineke was fine. This game was not one of the bigger ones in terms of takeaways from it. So let's move on to the next one. So the next game we're going to discuss is the Bears and the Browns, which I think has more takeaways. But first, we'll get to this question. Any concerns for current year production from Kyle Pitts? Yes. Current year, yes. I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're going to be waiting. It's going to be a long time because until Matt Ryan is not the quarterback anymore, you're not going to be able to rely on him. Matt Ryan is washed. I said this last week. I've said this every week. I mean, Matt Ryan is washed. I said that Matt Ryan was washed coming into the season. I mean, really, if you look at Matt Ryan's career, Julio Jones made Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is nothing. I mean, without Julio Jones, he was nothing before Julio came into the league. In the games that Julio misses, Matt Ryan is a below-average quarterback. He's nothing. He sucks. He's 36. He's not going to become better now. So, unfortunately, yes, I am concerned because I think he's going to be able to support Ridley, but I don't know if he's going to be able to support Pitts as what we wanted. Pitts is going to be more of a mid to low-end tight end 1 this year, which is fine. I mean, that's great for a rookie tight end. In Dynasty, I have no concerns. Pitts isn't even 21 years old yet. 0 concerns long-term. But for this year, yes. He's not going to be top 5. Just not going to happen. Okay. Bears and Browns. Oh, boy. The fact that Matt Nagy is still employed is mind-blowing to me. I don't get it. I mean, Justin Fields, I wrote about it in an article. Feel free to read it. I'll put the link. I'll put the link in the chat. But it was not good. It was really, really not good. I mean, 6 of 20, 68 yards, 9 sacks taken. It's terrible. So, terrible. But it was just one game. There's nothing to talk about from the Bears. Everyone was bad. Robinson, bad. Montgomery, bad. Kmet, bad. Mooney, bad. Bad. Nothing good. So, yeah, Matt Nagy needs to be fired immediately. And this might be a buying window for Justin Fields in Dynasty, but right now this team is a disaster. So nothing good to say about them. About the Browns, I mean, I really think the big takeaway here is the running game is great. Hunt was 10 of 81. I mean, you're going to win a lot of games doing that. Chubb, I mean, 22 carries for 84. Hunt was stellar in the receiving game, picking up the slack for Landry. 674 there. I mean, Hunt had a really good week. Chubb, I mean, not great. 22 of 84, no touchdowns, no catches. Kind of busted if you played him. Not too worried about it, though. I think the touchdown regression in a positive direction is going to come for him. 22 carries on a good offense, you're going to get touchdowns. And the other big takeaway is Odell. I mean, Odell, 9 targets, 5 for 77. He is the one. He's going to be the number 1 weapon receiving-wise on the team, especially with Landry out. So I'm not saying I trust Odell as a big, fantasy option, but you'll probably be able to trust him as what he's been the last 2 years. I mean, I believe he was the wide receiver 26 in 2019. He was pacing for the wide receiver 23 in 2020. That's probably what you're going to have. You're probably going to have a borderline wide receiver 2, a wide receiver 2 in strong matchups, and a wide receiver 3 in weak ones. That's what Odell is. So it's all good. Good afternoon. Yeah, I know this isn't the best time to go live, but this show it's just easier for me to do it live. But I expect that most people will watch this after. But yes, welcome. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it for the Bears and the Browns. Not a particularly interesting game. The one other thing I might say is if Demetric Felton, running back for the Browns, is still on your waiver wire, I would pick him up in Dynasty. He shouldn't be on your waiver wire. He should be on the roster. He actually looks pretty good. Okay, let's move on. Next up, Ravens and Lions. So Hollywood Brown, man, if only he caught one of those 3 open touchdowns that he dropped, we'd be having a different conversation, but he didn't. Tyson Williams mysteriously benched at times. I don't really understand. He still outslapped Latavius Murray, but Latavius had more catches. Neither of them contributed anything in the receiving game. I wouldn't overreact and drop Tyson Williams in any format, but it's going to be hard to count on him. Other than him, I mean, the biggest story was Brown's drops, really. Rashad Bateman's going to come back to this offense. It sounds like he's practicing. It sounds like it's going to be this week. And if it's not this week, it's going to be next week. So prepare for Rashad Bateman to come back, and we're going to see how that impacts everybody. I'm honestly not sure, but we'll see. So keep an eye on that. Not too much to take away from this game. It was nice to see Mark Andrews get more involved. 5 for 109 on 7 targets. As for the Lions, DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams both scored touchdowns but weren't efficient on the ground. DeAndre Swift was great through the air. Nobody else really did anything other than Khalif Raymond, who I guess you can add. I'm not really interested. And the guys who are hyped recently, Quintez Cephas, 1 catch, 8 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1 catch, 2 yards. TJ Hawkinson, 2 catches, 10 yards. I mean, this is not good. TJ Hawkinson, I think it was just a down game and no worries about him. Quintez Cephas is just kind of a stash anyway. Don't like that Khalif Raymond out-targeted him 10-1. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is a bust, I think. I just don't. The only reason he was 4th round pick, the only reason people liked him was because he had opportunity, and clearly that's not helping him. So you can forget about him. They're gonna have real receivers on this team next year. You have to. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is someone. If people still hear the name Amon-Ra St. Brown and want to buy in Dynasty, I would just sell him. I'm just not interested. Okay, I think that's it for this game. I do really like DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is the one positive from the Lions in this game. In his past game, he should 7 for 60 is quite impressive as a running back. All right, Colts and Titans. Well, I mean, I did say going into the year that Carson failure, keep bringing the heat. Oh, well, we just got to the Colts. We got to the Colts and Carson failure. We got to Carson failure. Carson won'ts, Carson wins, Carson disaster. That's what we got to. And, I don't care. He's injured, but these are excuses. They're excuses. He's going to make excuses. And, I've had more than enough of Carson Wentz's excuses. We've had years of excuses. It's always one excuse or another excuse. And he never delivers. Never. 19 of 37, 194 yards and no touchdowns. Didn't run the ball at all. That's not a surprise. Took a couple of sacks. He didn't put the team in a position to win today. So he's a disaster. They've led the Colts to an 0-3 start. People were telling me the Colts are going to win 11 games. I laughed that off. I mean, Carson Wentz is just awful in every way, and I have zero interest in him going forward. I wouldn't have taken him into the season on Dynasty. I said I didn't want to see it, and now that you've seen it, there's no way you can sell him. So I would just hold on and hope, because what else are you going to do? Nobody's going to take him at this point. So nothing good to say about won'ts. What about Jonathan Taylor? Do I have anything good to say? I mean, Jonathan Taylor, man, outsnapped by Naheem Hines, even with Marlon Mack inactive. That wager, Tennessee -5, was a good one. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, 29 snaps to Naheem Hines 34, 10 carries to 6 for Hines. Hines had the rushing touchdown. Taylor, 3 targets, only caught 1 of them. I don't know. There are problems, really. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is injured. If you look at the Dynasty rankings, if you look at the top of Dynasty rankings, who are you really confident in? Number 1, coming into the week, Christian McCaffrey, injured. Number 2, Jonathan Taylor, uncertain role. Then for me, number 3, Saquon Barkley has had injury concerns on and off all season. 4, Najee Harris. I mean, he's on a terrible offense with a putrid offensive line. Next, DeAndre Swift. Okay, he actually looked pretty good as a receiver, but he did nothing in the rushing game, and he's on a terrible offense. Dalvin Cook, injured, missed this week's game. I mean, if you just look, who do you really have confidence in? Alvin Kamara looked okay, I guess. Not really involved in the receiving game this week. And then after that, Antonio Gibson, completely misused in today's game, or yesterday. Who do you have? And then after Nick Chubb, who didn't see any work in the receiving game. The top-end running backs in Dynasty, I just don't have complete confidence in any of these guys. So I don't know. It might be time to consider again taking some receivers at the top of dynasty drafts, because these high-end running backs just are not paying off. And Jonathan Taylor, I think he's probably still going to end up being my dynasty RB2 after this week, but that's just because I just went through all the other options and there's just no one who's going to take his place. It's not like anyone else had like a wonderful week that got me excited. But yeah, no, you might want to consider receivers at the top at this point. Other things from the Colts: Pittman, 12 targets. He looked good. Zach Pascal, a miserable 2 catches on 7 targets. Paris Campbell, 2 catches for 9 yards. Paris Campbell is a waste of time. And T.Y. Hilton is going to come back eventually. Paris Campbell, he played a lot of snaps this week, but he was still behind Pittman and Pascal. They went to a lot of 3 wide this week. They used Doyle. They used a little bit of Mo Alley Cox. But, not happy about the Colts right now. As for the Titans, I mean, Ryan Tannehill was okay. Not excited about him in Dynasty, honestly. I'm really not. Thought he was going to be like a mid quarterback 1 this year, and I don't think that's going to happen. He saved his day with 5 for 56 on the ground. Derrick Henry looked really good. Again, 28 for 113, but he had 3 catches for 31 yards. Even without a touchdown, he kind of saved his day there. Nothing good to say about the Titans receiving game. Nick Westbrook-Ikine led them with 4 catches. Led them with 53 yards. And tied for the lead with 4 targets. That is unacceptable. A.J. Brown, injured, kind of been a little bit out of it all season. I have some concerns with A.J. Brown. Julio Jones, we thought last week was the bounce back. This week, where was he for half the game? I don't know. 3 for 47 on 4 targets. This is not going to cut it. This is not good enough. So I would add Westbrook-Ikine in deep leagues because why not? But more pieces of this offense is unappealing. Seems like Derrick Henry is going to be the reliable one, and I really hope that A.J. Brown's injury is not serious, but he's not had a good start to this year. But yeah, no, there's not much to say about this team, but it's they won. They won. They're less of a mess than their opponent this week. The Colts were much more of a mess, so the Titans managed a victory. Okay, on to some more exciting stuff. So the Chargers and the Chiefs. That's a little bit more exciting, I would think. Chiefs lost. I mean, the Chiefs are 1-2. Kind of crazy. Patrick Mahomes, he had a decent day, but not for Mahomes. Kind of actually had some sloppy plays. He's still my 101 in Superflex Dynasty Leagues, though. I have no real concerns with Mahomes. Especially now that they signed. No, I'm kidding. Josh Gordon doesn't change anything, but they did sign Josh Gordon. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a bounce back game, I guess. Still only had 2 targets. One of them turned into a touchdown. Another fumble. I think they're only sticking with Clyde because their other options are Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon. They're going to sign a real compliment to Clyde next year. They just can't go into a year with Clyde as their main running back with no significant help. Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon just don't cut it. So Clyde is fine, but if this gives you a sell window, I'd just get out. Like I said last week, I'm not excited by Clyde. The other, Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. He's great. In Dynasty, it is what it is. If you're on a contender, keep him. If you're not, just sell him. And then everyone else, Mecole Hardman caught a touchdown on a jet sweep style play. No one else really did much of anything. Tyreek Hill kind of had another down game. I wouldn't worry about it, though. And whatever Josh Gordon is, he's probably just going to further muddy the waters. So I think that you're going to want Hill, you're going to want Kelce, and that's it. Those two are just so great that they take too much from everyone else. On the other side of the ball, Austin Eckler looked good. 11:55, 6 for 52 through the air and a touchdown. He's great. Herbert, 4 touchdowns. This was the big game that we wanted. Other than that, Mike Williams, 7 for 122 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's a real asset at this point. It's probably time to start taking him seriously in Dynasty. I don't know how high I'm going to move him up, but he's got to come up. The gap between him and Keenan Allen is way too big. Williams outproduced him again. Allen had a good game, though, 8 for 50 and 1. He might be a low-key buy if people are he's really cheap, if people are focused on Mike Williams. But, yeah, I don't know. Mike Williams is a free agent after this year. So, something to consider. But again, with Williams' emergence, it's kind of taken away everyone else. At this point, Williams, Allen, Eckler are the ones you want to start. Jared Cook, 2 for 27, didn't help you. And he was splitting time. He's been splitting time with Donald Parham almost all season. So, yeah. Nobody else you can really play other than Williams, Eckler, and Allen. The other running backs are also not helping. Larry Roundtree, Justin Jackson, they got a little bit of time, but not much. Okay, so next up, Saints and the Patriots. So Saints won this one 28-13. I mean, honestly, I didn't find this game to be compelling or interesting in almost any way. The Saints really, outside of Alvin Kamara, provided nothing at all. Nothing. I mean, Callaway had 4 catches, 41 and a touchdown, but that touchdown was on a ball that was thrown way in the air. So it just came in that A.J. Brown has a strained hamstring. It's going to be week to week. Yeah. Not good. So back to the Saints. It's just, you can't start any of these guys. I mean, Kenny Stills comes in off the street and gets 3 targets. Harris had 3 targets. Callaway, 5. He did score, but they missed Michael Thomas. Tony Jones, 2 carries for 12 yards, 2 catches for 10. Not helping. He's just a handcuff to Kamara, nothing more. Taysom Hill had 6 carries. They're desperate. Adam Troutman played a lot of snaps and offered absolutely nothing. Juwan Johnson played very few snaps and offered absolutely nothing. Juwan Johnson is a complete waste of time. That week 1 was just a mirage. Adam Troutman is close to the same. He's just a blocker. This team is unexciting outside of Kamara. Maybe Winston in good matchups, but this was not one of them. As for the Patriots, I mean, Mac Jones had a terrible day, 3 interceptions. He did carry the ball 6 times for 28 yards. The main takeaway was Damian Harris, 31% snap share, while Brandon Bolden played 46%. I don't understand. Even with James White's injury, I don't understand. Damian Harris, 6 carries for 14 yards, 2 receptions for -3 yards. Just a complete and utter disaster. So that's concerning. Other than him, Jonnu Smith, 6 targets, caught 1 of them for 4 yards. That's just not going to work. Smith's snap share is in major decline. They're going to more 3 wide. Kendrick Bourne got involved, 6 for 96 and 1. Hunter Henry played a lot more snaps than Jonnu Smith. He produced more. I think Jonnu Smith is just not going to work. Hunter Henry not either. This is an offense I want to avoid. James White also got hurt, so that takes away another option. J.J. Taylor really failed to step up in White's absence. We'll see if he does better next week. For some reason, they went to Brandon Bolden. And Nelson Aguilar, 2 catches on 8 targets for 17 yards. I mean, that's just terrible. Jacoby Myers is their wide receiver 1, 9 for 94 on 14 targets. But at this point, it looks like it's more Myers as the wide receiver 1. And you can't trust anyone else. You can't even trust Myers. But this is not a team we're targeting. They need to pick up some weapons in the offseason to actually run this offense with Mac Jones. All right, let's move on. Oh, wonderful. We're going to move on to the Falcons and the Giants. Yay, that one. I can't. As a Giants fan, I just can't take it anymore. Joe Judge needs to be fired immediately. I'm sick of him. He's not a good coach. Giants side of the ball. I mean, Daniel Jones has actually not been the problem. He's been fine. Saquon Barkley was a little bit inefficient on the ground, but he made up for it through the air with 6 catches for 43. Slayton and Shepard both got hurt in this game. Evan Ingram, another fumble. 2 for 21 on 6 targets, just unacceptable. I don't know what you want to do with him in Dynasty, but I don't want him on my Dynasty team. And then Kenny Golladay, 4 for 64, 5 targets. With everyone else hurt, that's what $70 million bought you. Not good enough. It's not good enough. Colin Johnson is a waiver wire ad this week, though. 5 for 51, 7 targets. He was on the Jags. 5th round pick in 2020. Feel free to add him. But there's nothing good to say about the Giants. They did make Devonta Booker inactive and went with Gary Brightwell as their backup. I don't know if that means anything, but we'll see. Yeah, Giants are not positive. Kadarius Toney also didn't help. 2 for 16. And just nothing good. As for the Falcons, it wasn't much better. Matt Ryan was not good. He didn't look good. I don't care what the numbers said. He's just not good. And then Mike Davis, 12 for 50. Cordero Patterson, 7 for 20 on the ground, but he had 6 for 82 through the air. Davis only 4 for 20. Looks like Patterson is like kind of the real deal. Someone you might be able to start in a pinch if that's going to be his receiving usage. Calvin Ridley, 8 for 61. He's fine, but he's not going to be the league winner that we thought. And then Kyle Pitts, only 2 for 35 on 3 targets, but played 84% of snaps. He's running the routes. They're getting him involved. He's doing everything you want to do. Lee Smith vultured the touchdown. Played as many snaps as Hayden Hurst. So Hayden Hurst, you can cut Hayden Hurst from your Dynasty roster. But I would not panic on Kyle Pitts. If there's any buying window, I would take it. And Russell Gage also missed this game. Olamide Zaccheaus filled in. He was fine, but I guess I'd add him. He's on waivers. But nothing more. These are not 2 teams we're targeting right now. Okay, let's move on. Bengals and Steelers. For the Steelers, Big Ben is washed. That's it for Big Ben. He's washed. Najee Harris had as many receptions as carries. 14 for 40 on the ground, didn't get anything going there, but he had 14 catches on 19 targets for 102 yards. So that's the kind of usage he's going to see. It was with Deontay Johnson out, Juju out for a lot of the game with a rib injury, Claypool coming out of the game at multiple times. So maybe that's part of why he saw those targets. Maybe it's because Big Ben can't throw the ball anymore. I don't know. Najee Harris is a complete and utter workhorse in the 3-down back, at least. You have that. Claypool, 9 for 96 on 15 targets. He had a good week. Juju missed a lot of the game with injuries. And Pat Freiermuth caught a touchdown. I think you can just cut Eric Ebron from your Dynasty rosters. But Freiermuth is going to be the starter on this team sooner rather than later. I really like him long term. As for the Bengals, Burrow only had 18 passing attempts. Not going to see that very often. Mixon, 18 carries for 90 yards. It's fine. It's a floor game. 1 catch for 4. Jamar Chase is the real deal, though. He caught 4 of his 5 targets, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns. At this point, I mean, I think Jamar Chase is closing in on being a first-round startup pick in 1 QB leagues. So something to consider. And I do like seeing that Chris Evans got a little bit involved in this one, catching 2 passes. Something to consider. T. Higgins did miss the game, though, so they were down one of their weapons. Okay, there are a few more games to go. Cardinals and Jags. I think it's time to fire Urban Meyer. I can't stand Urban. Urban just has no idea how to coach. Trevor Lawrence looked terrible, but I wouldn't panic. If there's a buying window, I'd take it. James Robinson is finally consolidating the work over Carlos Hyde. Robinson, 15 carries to Hyde's 8. Both were actually pretty efficient, but Robinson also had 6 catches for 46 yards. The Jaguars traded for Dan Arnold after this game. So, if you were hoping for anything out of Luke Farrell or Chris Manhurst or Jacob Hollister or whatever, just cancel that. They're not doing anything for you. Dan Arnold is going to become their starting tight end. Marvin Jones is their wide receiver 1 right now as well. 6 catches for 62 yards on 8 targets. He led the team. DJ Chark, 3 receptions for 49 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets. And Laviska Shenault caught all of his targets, 4 targets for 48 yards. But Marvin Jones is their wide receiver 1. Chark and Shenault are just not going to work. I don't think they're going to be it, unfortunately. So they're continuing to fall in my dynasty rankings, both of them, even though Chark caught a touchdown. And Shenault only played 65% of snaps. I mean, he's the wide receiver 3 at this point. I don't know who I'd prefer in dynasty between Chark and Shenault. I think Chenault's a better player. He's younger. But Chark is closer to getting out of this scenario because he's a free agent after this year. I think someone will pay him at seeing his 2019. I'm fine with either in dynasty as a buy low, but you're not going to be able to use them this year. As for the Arizona team, the Cardinals, wow, I'm tired today. Cardinals. Kyler Murray had a floor game. He didn't throw any touchdowns, but he gave you 1 rushing touchdown and 316 passing yards with a pick. James Conner vultured 2 touchdowns. I wouldn't read into that. I'm not interested in James Conner. Chase Edmonds, 11 for 26 on the ground, inefficient, but he added 749 through the air, which on 8 targets, tied for the team lead. Rondo Moore. Rondo Moore. 2 targets, 1 yard on 2 receptions. Do not fear. Do not fear on Rondo Moore. If you can buy, I would. I love Rondo Moore long term. AJ Green, 5 receptions for 112 yards on 6 targets. That might be the best game AJ Green has played in the last 2 years. Christian Kirk, 7 for 104 on 8 targets. I think Christian Kirk is fine. He's a free agent after this year. They're not going to re-sign him. Hopkins and Moore are their, 1 and 2 long term. And I think they're just going to have other players. I don't think they're going to spend what it's going to cost in free agent. I mean, Kirk, I think, is going to cost $7 or $8 million a year as a free agent. I just don't think that the Cardinals are going to pay that when they're already paying Nuke so much money. So, Kirk could find another spot in free agency. And yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, wouldn't worry. He was on the injury report with a rib injury. He obviously wasn't 100%. Not worried about DeAndre Hopkins. Let's move on to what's next. So after that, we're going to go to the Jets and the Broncos. Well, the Jets were absolutely awful. They scored a big fat 0. Zach Wilson, another 2 interceptions. It's not going to come together for him this year. Maybe it's something to consider later, but not this year. So you're not going to be able to start him this year, but he's a good buy low in Dynasty. I still believe in the talent of Zach Wilson. Michael Carter and Ty Johnson split the backfield. Johnson led in snaps, but Carter led in carries. Neither did anything really in the passing game. They had a lot of targets and produced nothing with them. I don't know. I still just don't think that the 2022 starting running back is currently on this team. I don't think it's Michael Carter. I think it's going to be someone else, someone who's not here. So I'm not really trying to buy Carter low in Dynasty, to be honest. As for the rest of the players, Corey Davis, 5 for 41 on 10 targets. He's the nominal one, hasn't done much with it. Elijah Moore had 6 targets, 3 for 22. I do think he's going to eventually get it together, but he was 4th in snaps. Braxton Berrios and Keelan Cole both outsnapped him, although they produced nothing with their opportunities either. This team is a dumpster fire right now, and it's going to be a while. But I would buy Elijah Moore low. Corey Davis is, and everyone else probably pass. Not really looking at it. Looking at this team. Teddy Bridgewater won his 3rd game. I like that. He's working his way into potentially being a future starter for 2022 and beyond. I mean, if he can, if he can do that, if he can keep winning, he could get another starting job next year. So it might be time to take him seriously in Superflex League. It's also in the article. It's in this article where I talked about it. Other than that, Javonte Williams caught three for 33. Didn't do much on the ground. I mean, both him and Gordon scored touchdowns. Gordon was more efficient. Neither was great. Tim Patrick had a decent game, 5 for 98. They didn't need to do anything to win this game. And KJ Hamler tore his ACL. So, Patrick is really going to have to step up in Hamler's absence. And also look for Albert Okwuegbunam, to get involved. He played 43% of snaps this week, but if they have to go to more 12 personnel without Hamler, really at this point they have Sutton and Patrick as usable receivers and no one else. So if they have to go to 12, Albert Okwuegbunam will get more involved. So he's someone you might want to look at in deeper formats. Not much else to say from this one. It was such a blowout that it really wasn't a game. All right, let's look at what I think was probably the most exciting, there were a couple really exciting games. The Ravens and Lions were one, but another really exciting game in real life was the Dolphins and the Raiders. Well, the Dolphins. Start with the Dolphins. Malcolm Brown started this game, but Myles Gaskin ended up with the lead in carries. He had 13 for 65. Brown 7 for 31 and a touchdown. Gaskin had 6 targets. Salvin Ahmed got a big fat nothing. You can, in any redraft, you can just cut Salvin Ahmed. He's done nothing in Dynasty. He's clearly the third string. Salvin Ahmed, he had 5 snaps. Malcolm Brown had 34 and Gaskin had 43. So Salvin Ahmed is just done. So you can get rid of him. Other than that, Mike Gesicki, 10 for 86 on 12 targets. Jalen Waddle, 12 for 58 on 13 targets. Will Fuller, 3 for 20 on 6 targets. And Devontae Parker, 4 for 42 on 7 targets. So those are the weapons plus Gaskin in the passing game. I do think Fuller's going to get more involved. It's going to be taken from someone, either Gesicki or Parker. I don't know which one. If this game is any indicator, it'll be Gesicki or it'll be Parker. But this is Jacoby Brissett. And we don't know who who Tua is going to prefer. I will say, and people don't want to hear this, Jacoby Brissett looked better than Tua did in his start. I would much rather, if it were who I had to start tomorrow, I would rather start Jacoby Brissett next week than Tua. Tua looked like garbage. He was injured again now, another injury. He looked like garbage in week 1. He looked like garbage last year. I'm done. In Dynasty with Tua, I'm just done. I have Tua in Dynasty at quarterback 21. If you told me I could have Sam Darnold over Tua, I would do it at this point. I've seen more from Sam Darnold in these 3 games than I've seen from Tua in his career in the NFL. He was great in college, but that was before his hip injury. That was a long time ago. So I'm just done. I'm done with Tua. If he were so great, he would look better than Brissett in this offense, but he didn't. So Tua is just someone in Dynasty that I'm completely done. I do find the fact that Will Fuller came in and played 61% of snaps promising in his first week. He was the wide receiver 3 in usage-wise behind Waddle and Parker, though. I do think that will change. I think that Fuller is going to be the 2 and Parker is going to be the 3. Waddle, I do think is going to remain the 1. Waddle had 12 receptions on 13 targets for 58 yards. Kind of a weird line. Almost like Juju-esque, except with more speed. I don't know if that was just an aberration, but I do like seeing 12 receptions. That'll be good in PPR. I'm excited about Waddle. As for the Raiders, Derek Carr, 386 yards again. He's quietly been very good. Now, speaking of another uncomfortable conversation, Peyton Barber, 23 for 111 yards and a touchdown in this offense. I got to tell you, he looked better than Josh Jacobs has looked in any of last year and the start of this year. Maybe Josh Jacobs is just a plotter. I don't understand how Peyton Barber did this well, where Josh Jacobs has really accomplished nothing. I mean, last year, less than 4 yards a carry on ridiculous volume. Maybe that's why they didn't want to give him a ridiculous volume. I would just get out of Josh Jacobs. I have zero interest in him moving forward. Clearly also have zero interest in Kenyon Drake, because why did Peyton Barber get 23 carries and Kenyon Drake 8? Kenyon Drake had 3 catches for 33, but that's just not good enough. So Kenyon Drake is not even a handcuff. We now have seen that even if Josh Jacobs goes down, you're not going to be able to use Kenyon Drake. So forget him in Dynasty. He's just a roster clogger. As for the receivers, they got Bryan Edwards involved when it mattered. 3 for 89 on 5 targets. He led receivers in snaps. Woo. Yay. I don't know. You're not going to be able to trust any of these players. They're starting to go to 12 with Foster Moreau really often. Even though Moreau did nothing in this game. But Edwards looked fine. Ruggs looked fine. I just think you're not going to be able to trust them. I'm kind of moving both of them down my Dynasty rankings. I'm just not that interested. Darren Waller, 5 for 54 on 7 targets. I think, again, that's like a floor game for Waller. If he does better, it'll really dig into everyone else. And I'm not too into Hunter Renfrow. Even though he had 5 for 77 and 1 on 6 targets, he still was third, behind Edwards and Ruggs in snaps, and I don't think he's going to be a long-term solution. Anyway, let's continue. So, got 3 more games. Next up, the Buccaneers and the Rams. So, in this one, the Rams won 34-24 without Darrell Henderson. Matthew Stafford can ball. 27 for 38, 343 yards and 4. At this point, Stafford is a Dynasty quarterback 1, and really, I have him at quarterback 12, and I see Russell Wilson at quarterback 11. I'm kind of like, what's the difference? They're similar age. Russell Wilson that much better? Something to consider. But Matthew Stafford is getting closer to that tier than he is the tier below. But we'll see where I want to move him after this week. But he's a solid long-term Dynasty asset. You have years with him. Other than him, Robert Woods led Rams receivers in snaps, but he only had 3 catches for 33 yards on 6 targets. Cooper Kupp dominated 9 for 96 and 2 on 12 targets. I still believe that Robert Woods is going to be better than he's been. But Cooper Kupp is number 1 on this team. It's not even close. Other than that, Van Jefferson played the 3rd most snaps of a receiving weapon. He played 77%. And that was, he had 4 for 42 on 6 targets. He had a fine day, but nothing special. But it's clear that they want to go 3 wide with those guys. Sony Michelle was the lead running back, 20 for 67. Nothing impressive. You can't really run on the Bucs. Did have 3 for 12 in the receiving game. We saw nothing from Jake Funk. So I do think that Darrell Henderson is walking back into the starting job when it comes back to him, but maybe it'll be a 70-30 split instead of Henderson being the workhorse like it was before his injury. And then Tyler Higbee had 5 for 40 and 1 on 5 targets. Johnny Munt played as their backup. Jacob Harris didn't play at all for the 3rd straight week. Maybe I just got that one wrong. They just haven't really even gotten him involved. Like other stashes, like Kylan Granson, have at least seen some playing time, even though they haven't done anything. Jacob Harris has done nothing. So that one might have just been a miss for me. Total whiff. Oh, and I really like Deshaun Jackson's 1 good game. 3 for 120 and 1. And the really sad part is Ben Skowronek had 2 snaps and got on the field while Tutu Atwell was nowhere to be found. I don't understand the Tutu Atwell pick, honestly. He's borderline droppable in Dynasty. I don't know what you would do with him. Van Jefferson is clearly the wide receiver 3 at this point. And that's not that valuable. As for the Buccaneers, it was a tough matchup. Brady still gave you 432 and 1 and a rushing touchdown. You're fine. I'm done with Leonard Fournette. I'm done with Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones, 12 snaps. 12 snaps, 5 carries, 11 yards, no passing game work. Done. Done with Ronald Jones. I've been done with Ronald Jones since the first week, but I'm done with Ronald Jones. Leonard Fournette, much better. I mean, 36% of snaps, 26 overall snaps, 4 carries for 8 yards, and 3 catches for 26 yards. Unacceptable. You can't start him. And then next, Giovanni Bernard, 9 catches for 51 yards and 1. He led the Buccaneers running backs in snaps with 45% and 33 snaps, but he suffered some sort of injury potentially. So I don't know if he's going to miss time. Then I would go back to Leonard Fournette, but not going back to Ronald Jones. I will never start Ronald Jones. You can't start someone who has 12 snaps. I mean, Ronald Jones is going to rank outside of my top 50 running backs in the next week, no matter what. I'm just not starting him. He's dead to me. He's dead to me. And there are still people who believe that Ronald Jones is like good. I don't know. I must see a different player because being good 30% of the time is not good. This is the Evan Ingram thing. Being good 30% of the time is bad. If you're good 30% of the time, that means you're a bad player, not a good one. So just because he has a couple of flashes and a couple of long runs just doesn't cut it for me with Ronald Jones. So I want him away from my dynasty team. And luckily I would never have told anyone to get him anytime recently. So as for the rest of the players, I mean, Godwin and Evans, they were good. Evans 8 for 106, Godwin 6 for 74. Tyler Johnson, 3 for 63 on 6 targets. He's clearly ahead of Jalen Darden as the backup. He was the one who played the most snaps. He was the primary wide receiver 3 with Antonio Brown out with COVID. Scotty Miller also suffered an injury. There's so much depth on this team. Jalen Darden, he had 1 reception for 0 yards on 1 target. He's borderline droppable in Dynasty. It was a nice idea. But Tyler Johnson is the one you want to stash there, not Jalen Darden. And Rob Gronkowski, 4 for 55. For a tight end, that's actually not bad. Cameron Brate mysteriously got involved, though. And O.J. Howard finished 3rd in snaps and had 1 catch for 11 yards. I don't even know if you can hold on to O.J. Howard at this point in most dynasty leagues, but if you are, it's for his spot on his next team, not here. But I don't have much interest in O.J. Howard. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it on this game. A couple more games. Let's see. Seahawks and Vikings. That was kind of an exciting one, actually. I kind of enjoyed that game. The Vikings were down, and then they made a comeback. So Seahawks side of the ball. Russell Wilson, 298 yards, a touchdown, 3 carries for 7 yards. He was fine. He didn't kill you, but he wasn't great. Chris Carson had a big day, 12 for 80 and a touchdown. Alex Collins is his backup, not Rashad Penny, not Travis Homer, and Travis Homer is like the 3rd down back. But DJ Dallas, you can just cut DJ Dallas from your dynasty rosters. He's useless. Other than that, yeah, you're never going to start any of these other guys unless Carson gets hurt. DK Metcalf had a good game. He had 6 catches for 107 and a touchdown on 9 targets. Nice to see him getting back involved. Tyler Locket, 4 for 31. He had a scary injury, but he came back in the game. He should be good to go. But the scary thing is that Freddie Swain played 85% of snaps and did nothing with them. Gerald Everett was the other guy who was mostly used, 79% of snaps and 5 targets for 54 yards. Give me Gerald Everett over Evan Ingram in Dynasty today. Today, give me Gerald Everett over Evan Ingram. I'm done with Evan Ingram. I'd rather have Gerald Everett in this offense because there's been inconsistency from both Metcalf and Lockett. So maybe Gerald Everett is someone who'll step up. And Dwayne Eskridge is nowhere to be found. He's had multiple injuries, didn't understand the pick when they made it, and it looks like you're better off betting on Gerald Everett as the 3rd option here. And he's someone I have some minor interest in Dynasty. As for the Minnesota offense, if you really want to talk about a funnel offense, this is it. Kirk Cousins, 30 for 38, 30 out of 38 for 323 and 3. What a great day passing. Alexander Madison filled in admirably for Dalvin Cook, who missed this game with an ankle injury. Madison, 26 carries for 112 and 6 catches for 59 yards. He was good. He looked good. So, he kind of re-established himself as a premier handcuff at the very least. He might be someone who gets another contract elsewhere when his rookie one runs out. As for the passing game, like I said, it's very funneled, really. Justin Jefferson, 9 for 118 and 1 on 11 targets. Given A.J. Brown's injury and DK Metcalf's inconsistency, Justin Jefferson is my unquestioned dynasty wide receiver 1. He's 2 years younger than them anyway. There's no doubt for me. Justin Jefferson is my dynasty wide receiver 1, and it's not very close. Other than him, Tyler Conklin, big day, 7 for 70 and a touchdown. Played 72% of snaps. And, Chris Herndon, just 16. Tyler Conklin. I worry now about Irv Smith. That Irv Smith is not just going to walk back into the role that we wanted. Tyler Conklin is someone to consider. And then, other than him, Adam Thielen had another touchdown, 6 for 50 and a touchdown. He's a nice veteran player to ride out. I'd much rather have Adam Thielen right now than Julio Jones, for example. And then lastly, KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne, he was kind of a story. He kind of came out of nowhere to be the wide receiver 3 this year ahead of Dede Westbrook and Amir Smith-Marset. Smith-Marset has an injury. Westbrook's done nothing. And with Smith out, they've gone to some 11 personnel. Osborne only played 59% of snaps, so his share has been going down, which is not what you want to see. But actually, it's the same as last week. We have 81% in week 1. But he had 2 catches for 26 yards. He's going to be a player that kind of hangs around your dynasty rosters as a prospect. But you're not going to be able to start him unless Jefferson or Thielen gets hurt. So then we're going to move on to the last one. The last game, Packers and 49ers. So the Packers won on a last-second field goal led by Aaron Rodgers in a, clutch performance. Rodgers gave you 261 yards and 2 touchdowns, no rushing. So good day, but again, without the rushing, it's just not, that's not a ceiling performance for quarterback in fantasy. But he's someone you can trust as a low-end QB1 every week. Aaron Jones, another good day, 19 for 82 and a touchdown with 2 catches for 14. So that's good. That's a good day. Not what it was last week, but it's a good day. A.J. Dillon, 6 for 18. He's just a handcuff. He's just a handcuff, nothing more. Kylan Hill did nothing. So the talk of Kylan Hill challenging A.J. Dillon for the backup role, I think is exaggerated. A.J. Dillon is the clear backup. Kylan Hill is the clear number 3. What I do worry about is if Aaron Jones went down, I don't think A.J. Dillon is going to be what we want. So I'm kind of souring on A.J. Dillon in Dynasty. As for the receiving weapons, Devontae Adams, 18 targets out of the 31 targets available. So he's the guy. Everyone else, Valdez-Scantling played fewer snaps than Allen Lazard, but he had 4 targets, 3 for 59 and 1. But I just don't trust Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Lazard, whatever. He caught a catch early, I think, and then he just went nothing else. Robert Tonyan, 73% of snaps, good. 1 catch for 6 yards, not good. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Robert Tonyan, but you can't trust him. Really, you can trust Davante Adams and Aaron Jones, and you cannot trust anyone else. Trust Aaron Rodgers somewhat. 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo was acceptable, nothing more. He's going to lose his job to Trey Lance eventually once he starts losing more games. As for everyone else, Trey Sermon, oh boy. Trey Sermon had 10 carries for 31 yards. He scored 2 catches for 3 yards. Wasn't good. The 49ers clearly did not feel comfortable turning to any of their other running backs because Kyle Juszczyk actually led 49ers running backs in snaps ahead of Sermon. Some of that was obviously at fullback, but Juszczyk had 5 carries for 14 yards and 4 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown. The other running backs, Jacques Patrick, Trenton Cannon, and Kerryon Johnson, none of them got in the game at all. So just keep that in mind. They don't trust those guys. So for now, it's Trey Sermon as the workhorse. Jeff Wilson can return after week 6. Jermichael Hasty can return in a few weeks. I think those two are coming back around the same time. And then Elijah Mitchell is going to come back first. I think Elijah Mitchell, with his shoulder injury, is going to play this coming week. He was close to playing this one. So, and given Sherman's poor performance, I expect Mitchell to come back in as the starter. But with Kyle Shanahan, you never know. And then as for the receivers and tight end Kittle, Samuel, once again, led the team in targets. He led the team in targets. He led the wide receivers in snaps. And he led the wide receivers in receptions, 5 for 52 on 10 targets. Brandon Ayuk did score 4 for 37 and 1 on 6 targets. He played 86% of snaps. Samuel played 98. So Ayuk has reestablished himself as the wide receiver 2. Mohamed Sanu played as the wide receiver 3 in this one, ahead of like Trent Sherfield and Juwan Jennings. So clearly they have Sanu as their 3, but that was only 3 wide receiver sets. Ayuk is their 2 right now behind Samuel. And I have it ranked that way, so his performance this week really isn't going to move him in my Dynasty rankings. This is what I assumed would happen, is that he would walk back in eventually to being the 2 behind Samuel. But as of now, I have Samuel ranked in Dynasty ahead of him. And nothing I saw today changed that, just because I caught a touchdown. Samuel still had more targets. I do like the Kittle bounce back, though. 100% of snaps, 7 for 92 on 9 targets. I do think that the concern over Kittle was exaggerated. And I'm happy to see him have 9 targets. Happy to see him have 7 for 92. Didn't score, but 7 for 92 at tight end is solid. So he's, I had him before the game just ahead of TJ Hawkinson at Dynasty tight end 4, with Hawkinson just behind at Dynasty tight end 5. I didn't like what I saw from Waller this week, so I think Waller and Kittle are going to be close at 3 and 4 after this week. It's Pitts and Kelsey, to me, are the clear 1 and 2 at the moment. Kelsey is the veteran I can really rely on, and Pitts is the young guy with the ultimate potential. Then I kind of get to Waller and Kittle, who I can trust mostly, but they're a little bit older. And then TJ Hawkinson, I 2 good games this year, but I'm not quite there. He'll come in at 5, but it's a huge drop-off after those top 5. There's 5 guys I really want. Andrews is like in an island at 6, way behind the top 5 and way ahead of everyone else. And Fant is kind of in his little island at 7, way behind Andrews, but way ahead of everyone else. And then after tight end 7 in Dynasty, I just have no interest in anyone else. So, okay, I've wrapped up all the games. My doing solo is really difficult on my voice, but I appreciate everyone who tuned in live. There weren't many questions in the chat. I didn't really expect there to be. This wasn't really a question show. But yeah, if you watch this back later, put your comments below the video, like, subscribe. And one last thing I'm going to close the show with. Ed says, thank you for the recap. You're welcome. I put my Patreon link in just right there and at the bottom of the comments. If you're not doing well this season, or you think you need some help, what my Patreon is I will provide fantasy advice in DMs or that's the way we talk about it. And I'll walk you through how to help your teams. You got access to my Dynasty rankings, my start sit rankings, the Discord that I use to push out my content to the patrons before everyone else can, get it. And I make sure you guys get it first. So yeah, that's really most of what's going on there, but I really would appreciate it. Somehow I got patreon.com/fantasy advice. So there's the link. It's up on the screen. It's in the chat. And, if you're interested, I really appreciate you. But I also appreciate everyone who watched. And good luck on Monday night.